So our first category is Prospect of the Year. Before I give you the right answer, let me hand over to the chap to my right and hear your thoughts on Prospect of the Year.
My prospect.
Your head isn't in shot, which is probably a good thing. But
well, sorry to inflict myself. My prospect of the year, unfortunately, is in a very dry division. My prospect of the year is Alexander Usyk. I'm incredibly impressed by what I've seen. I think he's on 9 fights.
I think he's 8-0.
8-0, 9-0. He's the WBO mandatory. He'll win that.
You think he'll beat Glowacki?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's a big suck for someone with 8 fights.
Right there. Vasily Lomachenko did it after 4. Rigondeaux did it after 10. I think he'll take most of them, in truth.
What do you like about Usyk as a fighter?
I think he seems to, I mean, for a big bloke, what, £200? He seems to have a lot. He seems to have most things that you could want in a fighter. I mean, yes, he's 8-0, so there's still obviously the room for him to be found out as the career development goes on. But I've just been very impressed.
Interesting. Any honourable mentions you'd like to give out?
Callum Smith. Obviously, he sort of had his biggest fight, which was Rocky Fielding, massive anticlimax after finishing him in 1. But he's looked very promising, if nothing else. Who was it? I don't know. I think now that Billy Joe Saunders has won a world title, his development will be very interesting to see what he goes. I think his prospects are looking very interesting, if not himself as a prospect.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective in terms of prospects, with a UK bias, Callum Smith had an excellent year. Anthony Joshua had an excellent year. Actually, I mean, their biggest fights, Rocky Fielding and Dillian White, were actually kind of similar fights. Similar level of fights, both undefeated British opponents, both with high knockout ratios, both viewed as quite tight matchups. And I thought both performed with credit in those fights. Callum Smith was obviously, pretty perfect with the first round stoppage. Anthony Joshua performed with credit against Dillian White, certainly. Those two guys both deserve honourable mentions. Callum Smith in particular is someone who is really not far off world title level, given the context of the current super middleweight division. Where there's some slightly easier marks out there. As for Anthony Joshua, he's probably done just as well as Callum Smith. It's probably a harder route to the top for him. There's probably better fighters at the top of his division than with Callum Smith. Those guys certainly deserve a mention. Regular viewers to the channel will know that I am very, very high indeed on New Zealand heavyweight prospect Joseph Parker. He's had a very good year. He's looked devastating. We've seen multiple early stoppages from Parker. He's been kept very busy. I just felt that Parker, Callum Smith, Anthony Joshua were possibly one level below Usyk, Alexander Usyk, who is the cruiserweight prospect you mentioned. And yeah, I actually agree with you. He's my prospect of the year as well. And again, usually we disagree on this sort of stuff. He's a big guy, very light on his feet, got a lot of skills. Got a lot of skills. This guy can dance, he can punch, he's got a jab, good speed. He's a really, really interesting fighter. The cruiserweight division, in the last couple of years, there's been multiple champions, all of whom have had some say as to who's the best guy. We've had Lebedev, Huck, Drozd, is it Hernandez? Yeah. This is the guy who could potentially be a dominant cruiserweight. He's a young guy. I know plans perhaps are for him to step up to heavyweight in the long term. For me, looking at him physically, he's more of a cruiserweight. And he would possibly start as a favourite against any of the cruiserweights out there in my mind. And I don't think you could say that about Joseph Parker or Callum Smith or Anthony Joshua at this stage. Usyk has already shown enough to make me think he might be the best in this division, and this is 8 fights into his career, which is scary enough. If you haven't seen him, check him out, because you'll be hearing a lot about him, and when he steps up to heavyweight, Don't be surprised if we see this furious Joshua one day. He's that good. But yeah, we're unanimous on this one. The award for Prospect of the Year goes to Alexander Usyk. Do leave your comments below. Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this discussion, click the thumbs up. I'd appreciate it.